sequels are of course the gravy that keeps Hollywood chugging along. And beyond giving audiences more of what they enjoyed the first time around, it's generally expected that any cast members who made it through the original film in one piece will return. But of course, so often that isn't the case, with actors not returning for sequels due to ever-pesky scheduling issues, salary disputes, or perhaps even good old-fashioned creative differences. Then there's the possibility that the filmmakers simply want to go in another direction entirely. And yet sometimes an actor will return for a sequel many years after the fact, perhaps even long after fans had given up hope of them ever returning to the franchise. And that's absolutely the case with these actors, each of whom is set to return for upcoming movie sequels, in most cases to the surprise of just about everyone. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and let's take a look at these actors returning for upcoming movie sequels. Starting with Cillian Murphy, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Though some were left disappointed that 28 Days Later star Cillian Murphy didn't appear in the recent sequel 28 Years Later, director Danny Boyle has confirmed beyond any doubt that audiences will definitely get to see him in the next film, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Murphy's original protagonist, Jim, hasn't appeared in the franchise since 28 Days Later, and considering both the original's enduring popularity and Murphy's skyrocketing star profile in the near 25 years since, which includes an Oscar win for his performance in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, there's clearly a burning desire from fans to see him back. Boyle has warned ahead of time, however, that Murphy won't have a huge role in The Bone Temple, his cameo more or less intended to act as a tease for another sequel, which will only get made if The Bone Temple hits at the box office. If it performs anything like 28 Years Later did, then things are looking good, though that sequel's wildly polarizing ending may well result in this next film trending downwards at the box office. Here's hoping not.
Film and TV is cool, but you know what else is cool? Protecting your privacy online. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 3 months free if you sign up today. I'd make that deal. Damn good deal.
Anna Faris and Regina Hall, Scary Movie 6. When a 6th Scary Movie was announced last year, the first question most fans had was, are Anna Faris and Regina Hall coming back? After all, the duo who played leads Cindy Campbell and Brenda Meeks in the first 4 films didn't appear in the critically savage Scary Movie 5, and in the other lesser sequels, it was their comedic timing and screen chemistry that kept things watchable. Thankfully, back in August, the duo were confirmed to be reprising their much-loved roles in the now shooting sequel, ensuring that even if the film as a whole is a mess, we'll have some more Cindy-Brenda hijinks to marvel at. As risky as belated comedy sequels go, there's little indication that Faris and Hall have missed a step in the near 20 years since they last played these roles. So here's hoping the rest of the film measures up to their outstanding comedic chops. Robert Downey Jr., Avengers Doomsday. There's simply no upcoming sequel return more shocking than Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers Doomsday. After all, Downey's iconic Tony Stark died a deeply affecting sacrificial death at the conclusion of Avengers Endgame back in 2019, seemingly bringing his tenure as the figurehead of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a fitting conclusion. While many expected that Downey would return as an Iron Man variant in Avengers Secret Wars, just about nobody anticipated that he would come back in the film before this, Avengers Doomsday, as another character entirely. At last year's San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel Studios announced that Downey would be playing supervillain Dr. Doom in Doomsday, a jaw-dropping revelation which left Marvel fans the world over absolutely shook. Some were excited, others saw it as a desperate move on Marvel's part. But nobody knows the precise nature of Downey's role. Is he playing a Tony Stark variant who has taken the guise of Dr. Doom? Or is he straight up playing a traditional iteration of Victor Von Doom with no multiversal tricks? As ever, we'll have to wait and see. The potential for messiness is huge. But if the Russo brothers pull it off, they'll have the MCU's first mega hit in a good while on their hands. Michael Caine, The Last Witch Hunter 2. Back in October 2023, the great Michael Caine announced his retirement from acting, confirming that his last role would be dramedy The Great Escaper, which released the very same month. And considering that Caine was 90 years of age at the time, there seemed no reason to believe that Caine would come out of retirement. And if he did, most assumed it would surely be a cameo in a Christopher Nolan movie. But to the surprise of just about everyone, Caine announced back in September that he was exiting retirement to reprise the role of the 36th Dolan in The Last Witch Hunter 2. Caine appeared in the 2015 original as the mentor to Vin Diesel's protagonist Calder, and at the age of 92, he's imminently set to play the part once again, seemingly as a favour to Diesel, with whom he's been close friends for decades. If nothing else, it'll give the world a reason to check out this most improbable sequel to a film that flopped critically and commercially. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts, Don Cheadle, and Casey Affleck, Ocean's 14. 2007's Ocean's 13 well and truly seemed like the final outing for the original starry-eyed ensemble cast, led by George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle, and more. 2018's spin-off Ocean's 8, which revolved around thief Danny Ocean's sister Debbie, was a mostly standalone affair which teased that Danny had died. But after years of rumours, earlier this year Ocean's 14 was confirmed, with Clooney, Pitt, Damon, and Cheadle set to return alongside the franchise's other prominent stars, Julia Roberts and Casey Affleck. Beyond confirming that the plan is for director David Leitch to shoot the sequel next year, Clooney also hinted that more familiar faces may well join the cast yet. So we'll just have to wait and see. Whether any of the Ocean's 8 cast are ported over, especially Sandra Bullock's Debbie, remains to be seen. But considering the overwhelming popularity of the star-studded original trilogy, there will surely be many fans keen for another go-around with so many legacy cast members coming back. Lin Shaye, Insidious 6. Ever since its inception, Lin Shaye's psychic character Elise Rainier has been the beating heart of the Insidious franchise. A rather ironic turn of events considering she dies at the end of the first film. All the same, the brilliant Shaye has been able to reprise the fan favourite role in the sequels, either by appearing in flashbacks or as a spirit. Though many fans were disappointed that she only returned for a tiny cameo in the most recent installment, Insidious: The Red Door. But for the impending 6th entry, it was announced that Shaye would be returning in a major role. And while the particulars of her comeback aren't yet known, the fact that she's going to apparently have a meaty front and center role is just what fans needed to hear. At 82 years of age, it's great to see Shaye still going strong as the headliner of a major horror franchise. Paul Walker, Fast 11. Paul Walker's tenure in the Fast and Furious franchise was cut heartbreakingly short when he died in a car accident in 2013 in the middle of shooting Furious 7. This prompted production to pivot, completing Walker's performance by having his brothers Caleb and Cody serve as body doubles combined with cutting-edge digital doubles of Walker himself. It served as a bittersweet but affecting farewell to Walker's Brian O'Connor, who retired from Dom's team at the end to live a quiet life with his family, allowing the character to continue existing off-screen. Brian has been indirectly referenced in every subsequent sequel, but Vin Diesel recently confirmed that O'Connor is set to return in earnest in the apparently final entry into the mainline series, Fast 11. Now obviously there's no way for Walker to directly reprise his role, and so the assumption is that Brian will appear in the film through similar techniques to those used in Furious 7, a combination of body doubles and digital doubles, quite probably taking advantage of modern AI and deepfake technology. It certainly stoked mixed feelings among fans, some considering it a ghoulish artistic choice, while others recognise Diesel's desire to honour his late friend in the series' big finale. It's a tough one. Rick Moranis, Spaceballs 2. Rick Moranis gave an incredible performance in Mel Brooks' Star Wars lampooning 1987 spoof Spaceballs, where he played the Darth Vader parodying Dark Helmet. Though Moranis was one of the most recognisable screen comedians of the 1980s, he opted to step away from Hollywood following the untimely passing of his wife, Anne, in 1991, choosing to focus instead on raising his young children as a single father. Moranis appeared only occasionally in films throughout the 1990s, after which it was reported that he had effectively retired from acting, bar an occasional cameo or voice role. So when Spaceballs 2 was announced last year, there weren't too many fans holding out hope that Moranis could be coaxed out of retirement to play Dark Helmet once again. But earlier this year, Moranis was indeed confirmed to be appearing in the sequel, marking his first live-action film appearance since 1997's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. Needless to say, even if Spaceballs 2 is another underwhelming belated comedy sequel that just took too long to come together, at least it'll be a sure treat to see Moranis back in one of his most entertaining roles. Matthew Lillard, David Arquette, and Scott Foley, Scream 7. Scream fans were whipped into a frenzy when it was announced that Matthew Lillard, David Arquette, and Scott Foley would be reprising their roles in the upcoming 7th movie. After all, their respective characters, original killer Stu Macher, fan favourite cop Dewey Riley, and Scream 3's solo Ghostface Roman Bridger are all dead. So how exactly are they going to be returning for a new film? Bar supernatural shenanigans or a surprise resurrection that risks hugely jumping the shark, there are two obvious possibilities here. One, the new Ghostface killer could be using AI deepfakes of dead characters to taunt protagonist Sydney, and considering the series' satirical through line, it would make sense to tackle one of the most polarizing subjects in Hollywood right now. The other possibility is that Stu, Dewey, and Roman will be featured in a flashback sequence, with fans theorizing Scream 7 could depict the murder of Sydney's mother, Maureen. Either way, fans are chomping at the bit to find out exactly how these three are back. Jennifer Grey, Dirty Dancing 2. Jennifer Grey became an overnight household name courtesy of her iconic performance as Frances Baby Houseman in 1987's Dirty Dancing. And though her late co-star Patrick Swayze had a cameo in 2004's prequel Dirty Dancing Havana Nights, Grey herself has largely stayed distant from the franchise. That is until 2020, when a direct sequel to Dirty Dancing was announced to be in development, with Grey confirmed to be reprising her role while also serving as an executive producer. The sequel will reportedly take place in the 1990s, 3 decades on from the original's 1960s setting, with Baby now working as a dance instructor who crosses paths with a young woman not unlike her younger self. Grey gave an update last year stating that the filmmakers were still working hard to get the script right, which is intended to pay vocal tribute to Patrick Swayze, though it'll certainly be interesting to see if the ongoing popularity of the 87 original can translate into a successful legacy sequel 4 decades later. Keanu Reeves, John Wick 5. John Wick Chapter 4 well and truly felt like a fitting end to Keanu Reeves' tenure as the titular assassin, especially as he seemingly died a heroic, meaningful death at its conclusion. But of course, money talks, and with the film grossing an astonishing $447.3 million globally, it didn't take long for Lionsgate to announce that John Wick 5 was in development. In the more than 2 years since, fans have speculated on precisely what a 5th John Wick film would look like, especially with Reeves and director Chad Stahelski remaining wishy-washy on John's fate at the end of Chapter 4, which is left just ambiguous enough to keep everyone guessing. In late 2024, Reeves affirmed his interest in playing Wick again, though cited the physical challenges involved with his increasing age, and back in March confirmed that John is indeed dead. However, the next month, Lionsgate formally announced that Reeves would be involved with John Wick 5, prompting speculation that it would be part prequel, with Reeves playing a supporting role as he did in the recent Wick spin-off Ballerina. Either way, it'll certainly be interesting to see how John Wick 5 shakes out, considering the great many who felt that the 4th film delivered a perfect send-off for the character. Meryl Streep, The Devil Wears Prada 2. A sequel to 2006's much-loved dramedy The Devil Wears Prada has been in the works for well over a decade, though for much of that time, stars Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt and Meryl Streep expressed little to no interest in actually doing it. But by last summer, The Devil Wears Prada 2 was indeed confirmed to be happening, even as some questioned whether Streep, being both 75 years of age and famously sequel-averse, would actually want to reprise her iconic role of magazine editor Miranda Priestley. After all, the only other time Streep has appeared in a sequel to one of her previous films was Mamma Mia Here We Go Again, where she only agreed to show up for a cursory cameo. But it's since been confirmed that Streep will not only co-star in Prada 2, but have a major role alongside Hathaway and Blunt. Considering that Streep was Oscar nominated for her performance in the first film, could she become one of the few actors to be nominated for the same role twice? I personally am very excited about this particular film. Norman Reedus, The Boondock Saints 3. Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flannery were the original stars of cult thriller The Boondock Saints. And though both returned for 2009's sequel, The Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day, it goes without saying that Reedus' star profile has grown considerably since then. Between his ongoing role on The Walking Dead and starring in both Dead Stranding video games, Reedus is now a globally recognizable star. Enough that some doubted whether he'd actually be both able or willing to return for a third Boondock Saints. The Boondock Saints 3 was first announced back in 2021, and though development has seemingly been slow going, Reedus confirmed earlier this year that the script had been written and was now being fine-tuned, while reaffirming that he will be co-starring in it with Flannery. The threequel has been dubbed something of a reimagining for the franchise, likely hoping to enjoy a boost off the now heightened fame of Reedus, while original writer-director Troy Duffy reportedly won't be returning, having sold off his stake in the IP. Daisy Ridley, Untitled Rey film. With the wildly divisive Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker bringing the 9-film Skywalker saga to an apparent conclusion, many questioned whether the inevitable next Star Wars movie would start fresh with a new cast of characters. After all, neither Oscar Isaacs nor John Boyega have expressed much active interest in returning to the franchise. But in 2023, it was announced that a follow-up to The Rise of Skywalker is in development, revolving around Daisy Ridley's Rey as she attempts to rebuild the Jedi Order. Given that Ridley has been by far the most enthusiastic of the 3 original leads, and Rey is clearly the overall protagonist of the sequel trilogy, it's a decision that makes a certain amount of commercial sense, even if the fan response to the news has been mixed at best. For every Rey fan, there are those who would prefer the entire Skywalker saga to be left behind and a new trilogy of movies forged from original characters in a distinct setting we haven't seen before. Bringing Ridley back should seem like a safe choice, but given the unmistakable franchise fatigue Star Wars is suffering through right now, will Rey be enough of a draw to actually get butts in seats? Dan Stevens, Godzilla Kong Supernova. Despite the last few Godzilla movies introducing a number of recurring human characters, it appears that only one of them is set to return for the MonsterVerse's latest outing, Godzilla Kong Supernova. Dan Stevens has been confirmed to return as Monarch Vet Trapper Beastly, who in fairness was by far the most memorable and likeable of all the human characters in the previous film, Godzilla Kong The New Empire. Even so, it's surprising that we won't be seeing the New Empire's other prominent characters in this new sequel. Again though, Trapper was easily the most entertaining human character in the New Empire, so it's certainly a relief that he'll be returning as a hopefully regular fixture in the MonsterVerse from this point onward. But if we're being totally honest, the more the film focuses on the titular titans, the better. Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest, Practical Magic 2. Shortly after a sequel to 1998's hit romantic fantasy Practical Magic was announced, it was confirmed that Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman would be returning as Sally and Gillian Owens, a pair of sisters descended from witches. After Evan Rachel Wood, who played Sally's daughter Kylie in the original film, confirmed that she hadn't been invited back for the sequel, disappointed fans immediately began to question what would become of the first movie's other prominent cast members. But it was soon enough confirmed that Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest, who played the sisters' aunts Frances and Bridget in the original film, were indeed back for Practical Magic 2. Despite their major roles in the first film, there was never any guarantee that the 81-year-old Channing and 77-year-old Wiest would be invited back for this sequel, especially with Hollywood ageism being what it is. But thankfully, the two veterans will be back to play the unforgettable pair once again. Zendaya and Jacob Batalon, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spider-Man No Way Home ended with Peter Parker having himself erased from everyone's memory in order to correct the unspooling multiverse, seemingly teeing up a sequel where he could operate as an anonymous Spider-Man once again. This meant there was no guarantee that the next film would feature substantial, if any, appearances from Peter's girlfriend MJ and best pal Ned. And as Spider-Man Brand New Day is being positioned as the first entry into a new trilogy of Spider-Man movies, there was certainly the possibility that the first film would focus on Spidey operating solo before attempting to reunite with MJ and Ned in future installments. But Zendaya and Jacob Batalon have indeed been confirmed to appear in Brand New Day. The size of their roles remain firmly up in the air, though reports have indicated that neither will have much screen time, which certainly makes sense considering that they don't even remember Peter at this point in time. John Astin, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Organic Intelligence. Now here's one surely nobody saw coming. The legendary John Astin is of course best known for originating the role of Gomez Addams in the Addams Family TV series, but also notably appeared in several entries into the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes horror comedy series. In the second, third and fourth movies, Astin played mad scientist Professor Mortimer Gangrene, but after the release of 1992's Killer Tomatoes Eat France, the franchise seemingly came to an end. However, earlier this year it was announced that a fifth film was in the works, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes Organic Intelligence. And even more surprisingly, a 95-year-old Astin Astin was confirmed to be reprising his role as Professor Gangrene. This is an especially major get, given that Astin's acting career began winding down at the turn of the century when he became an arts professor at Johns Hopkins University, a position from which he only retired in 2021. Regardless of how this new Killer Tomatoes movie turns out, it'll be an absolute trip to see Astin back in the role after over 30 years. Linnea Quigley, Trash's Revenge. 1985's much-loved zombie film The Return of the Living Dead has spawned 4 increasingly dire sequels, with 2005's Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave seeming to signal the natural end of the overstretched IP. However, last year, Linnea Quigley, who played the iconic Trash in the original film, announced her own sequel to The Return of the Living Dead called Trash's Revenge. Considering that Quigley's character died in the first film some 40 years ago, it was certainly inconceivable that she'd ever return for a prospective sequel. And yet here we are. The crowdfunding page for the low-budget follow-up seems to suggest that Trash will be resurrected via some sort of meta-narrative conceit, a gambit that could clearly either be total genius or a complete mess. Shooting began earlier this year, and here's hoping it's a worthy rejoinder to the original movie despite its evident shoestring budget. And finally, Andy Serkis, The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum. Andy Serkis gave one of the most acclaimed performances in Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy. His mesmerizing work in front of the camera fusing with state-of-the-art performance capture tech to make Gollum feel as alive and real as any human character. Back in 2024, however, Warner Brothers announced The Lord of the Rings The Hunt for Gollum, an interquel of sorts focusing on Gollum. It will be set during the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, with producer Philippa Boyens revealing that it, quote, falls after the birthday party of Bilbo and before the Mines of Moria. It goes without saying that there'd be absolutely no point in doing this without the involvement of Serkis. So it's good to know up front that he'll be returning to portray Gollum. In an interesting wrinkle, Serkis will also direct the film, and while his filmmaking output to date has been a wildly mixed bag, at least nobody knows Gollum better than he. And the shoot will be overseen by not only Boyens, but co-producers Jackson and Fran Walsh.